this is a little different than our party Lincoln Day dinners. Our flags usually sell for about $150 in Rock County, Wisconsin. I've got to tell you. So can we have our Lincoln Day here next year at the Viceroy? I mean, and I know this isn't technically a Lincoln Day because we do those in February, but the party dinner. First of all, like your very articulate state treasurer, I too have experienced Frida Wallison for many years. And I did not think I would be allowed back into Pitkin County without coming by and being with you here this evening. But no, in all seriousness, Frida and Peter have been great friends. If you don't know this, but you probably do, Peter is the free market person we look to give us guidance on this god-awful Dodd-Frank law and what the government's doing. And so he is doing the Lord's work right here from Colorado. I want to say a thing about Tipton. I mean, it doesn't get more sincere, more genuine. You don't get more salt of the earth than Scott Tipton. You just don't. As chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, I sit on this committee we call the Steering Committee, and it's about, I think, 20 of us. And we decide who goes on what committees. It is really competitive. There are 4 committees considered the best committees. They call them A committees: Ways and Means, Appropriations, Financial Services, and the Commerce Committee. And Financial Services Committee is a big deal committee. It's the committee that oversees all the financial services, Dodd-Frank, and everything else. And so Scott Tipton said, you know what, I want to go on the Financial Services Committee because I think I can make a big difference here. I think there are maybe 8 other people trying for this committee. That conversation in that meeting took about 45 seconds to make Scott Tipton a member of the Financial Services Committee above all those other peers. So I tell you, he is cream of the crop, and you are really well served. There are basically 3 things we're trying to do right now. And Frida asked me to talk to a few issues, then get into some questions. I want to do that, but let me just sort of frame it out this way. 3 things. Number 1, we have got this progressive government with this ideological progressive president stacking people in the government agencies who think like him. And so that means we've got coming out of these government agencies, a torrent of regulations. Our Western colleagues run point, like Scott does, on the EPA and the Western issues, like we do on agricultural issues in the Midwest. And so, number 1, our job is to, in effect, play defense, which is to stop these horrible regulations from actually occurring. So we go to court, and we've won a couple of those. We do the appropriations process. Waters of the USA, we fought together to make sure in the appropriations process that they cannot deliver Waters of the USA. We won that fight. And we're going to win that fight again this September so that they can't regulate every drop of water in America as if it's federal water. It's amazing. And oversight. I oversee the IRS investigation. How much time do you have? It's shameless. Best way, by the way, is in addition to getting the White House, is scrapping this entire tax code and starting over and giving us a simple system. That's how you take power away from the IRS. But the second thing we do is, in this divided government, we've got to figure out, well, what can we do to get some progress? What can we do to get the country moving forward a little bit? What can we do now that we have Congress, the House and the Senate? What can we do to get a foundation under this economy, to get something advancing so we can get some jobs, get some kind of economic growth, save the military from more sequesters? So that's the second thing we do, which is try and make progress on some things given the divided government we have. The third thing we do, and this is what 2016 is going to be mostly about, is we don't like the direction the country's headed. We don't like the policies coming out of this administration. Heck, I ran against the guy in the last election. But we think we owe you, our fellow citizens, how we would do things differently. How we would truly replace Obamacare with real freedom and patient-centered health care. How we will balance the budget, pay off the debt. We've already done that, by the way. We've passed a budget again for the 4th year in a row that balances the budget and does pay off the debt. Problem is, we got a president who won't implement it. But we need to show who we are, how we will better fight poverty, how we will build up our military, how we will get America leading and being respected in the world again. So these are the three things. Fight the liberal government agencies, do what we can right now to make progress on issues that we care about, and then show the country how we would do things differently so that the kind of an election we want to have in 2016 is the kind of election this country deserves to have, which is a clarifying election, choosing what kind of country you want to have. We are at that proverbial fork in the road. Are we going to be America again, land of the free, upward mobility, strong national defense, a real free enterprise system that has economic growth and upward mobility, or we're going to be Europe? We're going to just sort of skip along bottom, slow economic growth, people stuck in poverty, and our foreign policy in tatters. That's where we're headed. And so this is the kind of election we want to have. Now, there's 4 issues I just want to get into real quickly. 4 issues that can be confusing, but 4 issues that are important. Number 1, trade. You heard about Trade Promotion Authority lately? Yes. Right. They call it Obama trade. They're like, how could you guys support something that Obama could actually support? Trust me, it's an out-of-body experience for myself. Please know this. Here's the deal. We saw this as an opportunity to put us, Congress, in control of the White House on how they do trade. Here's our problem. The president can go running around the world and do what he wants. Look what he's doing in Iran. He can go do all these things, all these government agencies. So we saw this as an opportunity for us to advance our free trade principles because we believe in free enterprise and opening up markets to our products, our agricultural products, our manufacturing products, having America write the rules of the global economy while they're now being written, really important. But we're dealing with this White House. So we basically said, okay, let's do it our way. 3 things. First, Mr. President, you've got to write a trade agreement that fulfills our obligations. Here's what you can and must put in a trade agreement, and here's what you cannot put in a trade agreement. Can't put any immigration changes in a trade agreement, no global warming stuff. Just a brick-and-mortar trade agreement, lower tariff barriers, open markets for America, that kind of thing. Second, nobody knows what he's doing when he does these things. I mean, look at Iran. We do not know what he's negotiating. We do not know what John Kerry has specifically offered the mullahs in Iran, and we do not know what they have offered us. So we're saying, no. We need to see what's being offered. We need to have access to this stuff. So we can actually, so Scott Tipton and I, if we want to, can go to these negotiations. So we can see who's offering what, and we can control what America's offering. And number 3, let the country see it. Publish it. Whenever agreement's reached, before it can go into effect, make it public for the nation to see for at least 60 days. Holy cow, I wish we could do this with the Iran agreement. So bring more accountability, bring more transparency, and then at the end of the day, the 4th point, Congress decides. Congress votes. Congress determines whether or not we'll accept what's been negotiated. And if we don't like it, then they have to go back and renegotiate. So it puts Congress in charge of this process. As I mentioned, I wish we had Trade Promotion Authority for the Iranian agreement because we could tell him what he can and cannot do in the agreement. We'd be able to see what's in it right now. He couldn't agree to it until the country sees it for 60 days and until Congress votes for it. And one chamber of Congress, just the House, could on a majority vote say, no, we're not doing it. I wish we had more of these kinds of controls over the president and all these other things he's doing. And the reason we need trade is because we got to remember 95% of the world's consumers, they don't live in America. They live in all the other countries. And in an economy like ours, in a mature economy like ours, we need to make and grow more things, raise more beef, grow more corn, make more things here and send them overseas and sell them there into those markets. That's how we create jobs. You know, the funny deal is, we go to Farm and Fleet, that's what we call it, where I come from, or Clark's Market or wherever. You'll find a lot of stuff made in other countries. You go to the Minor Building, you'll find a lot of stuff made in other countries, but you won't go to other countries and find a lot of stuff made in America in those other countries. So the goal of trade agreements is to get the same kind of access to their markets that we already give them. 1 in 5 jobs in America is already tied to trade. They pay more on average. And so we know that we've got to get in this game. We have not negotiated a trade agreement since 2007, since Bush. You know why? Because we have a president who wasn't for this. And as a result, we're losing. We're slipping behind. 100 countries have already done 100 agreements with each other since 2007, freezing us out. Heck, in Asia, they've had 48 agreements since the year 2000. We've been a party to only 2 of them. And that means our share of trade to Asia is going down 42%. There are going to be 3.2 billion people in the middle class in 15 years in Asia. Those ought to be our customers. The last point is, the question is not whether the global economy is going to be drafted, meaning the rules of the global economy are going to be written in the next few years. That's not the question. The question is who's going to write them. Are we going to write the rules of the global economy, get other countries to play by our rules, to go to the American system of free enterprise, or are we just going to say we're not even going to try and let other countries like China write the rules of the global economy? That's what's at stake here. That's why this matters. And that is why, in our second category, we think this is something we can do to help our farmers, to help our ranchers, to help our manufacturers, to open markets for them, and to give Congress more control over an executive branch that needs more control over it. You guys paid attention to the Supreme Court at all lately? Doesn't it kill you that when liberals go to the bench, they stay liberal? But when we send conservatives to the bench, they don't all stay conservative? I mean, we now just realize we have 3 strict constructions of the bench when we were supposed to have 5. I'm talking about this King Burwell ruling. What we found with the Supreme Court is they basically took a sentence which was crystal clear, very clear intent of legislation, and they decided to flip its meaning to mean the opposite. And so now 6 judges decided to rewrite law, and that is a power that the Constitution vests for the legislative branch of government. So instead of serving as a check and a balance, instead of honoring the separation of powers, in this particular ruling, you see this branch of government teaming up with the other branch of government to do a power that neither of the branches of government were supposed to do, which is write a law. Wouldn't do a difference. So, here's the deal. I've got to tell you, this healthcare law will not stand. And the reason why I say, you know, as the committee who oversees this stuff, it will not stand is because I don't think people will stand for it. People do not realize what is yet to come with this law. People don't realize that we're taking $700 billion from the Medicare program. Those cuts are just beginning. There's a new board of 15 unelected bureaucrats in charge of price controlling and rationing Medicare. That hasn't even started yet. And they do this to raid money from Medicare to pay for the Affordable Care Act, for Obamacare. Your premiums are going up double digits. Your copays are going up. Your deductible is going up, and you're getting less access. Oh, and by the way, we see a rash of healthcare providers going out of business with this law. The point is, I don't think people will stand for the loss of control, the loss of freedom, the exorbitantly high prices, and I don't think people will stand for having Medicare turned into a rationing system, which is the trajectory of this law. So I, for one, believe this law is collapsing under its own weight. We as conservatives need to make sure that we replace it with real health care reform, real patient-centered health care for where you and your doctor make your own decisions, not just some bureaucrats in Washington. The budget. Let me just give you one more thing. We know how to balance the budget. We know how to fix these runaway programs that are giving us the debt crisis that's ahead of us. We need to win an election to do so. Scott Tipton, since he's been there, he's been voting for balanced budgets. He's been voting to pay down the debt and pay it off. He's been voting for courageous entitlement reforms that make sure that we honor our seniors, but make sure that the next generation's better off. And I've just got to tell you, you turn on the TV and you look what's going on in Greece today. That's what happens when a country lies to itself for too long. That's what happens when a country lives off so much debt. That's what happens to every country that picks that path. And unfortunately, that is the same kind of path our country's on. And so, again, we win the right election with the right people in Congress, we can turn this around and do it on our own terms. There's one more issue that I think is really important to think about. And that is, we got 45 million people living in poverty today. And we've had the highest poverty rate in a generation for a generation. We just commemorated the 50th anniversary of the war on poverty last year. And guess what? Poverty's winning the war. If you were raised poor in America today, you are just as likely to be and stay poor today as you were 50 years ago. Upward mobility is not changing. And when we take a look at the welfare system we have in place, and this is why we're big fans of doing another round of welfare reform. We've got tens of millions of Americans who are able-bodied adults who aren't working, who aren't looking for work, or aren't even going to school to get a skill to get a job. They're losing their potential. They're missing out on their lives. And we are missing out on their talents. And as a result, not only does our economy suffer, but they do not see the American idea in front of them. We've all believed in this thing, the American idea, that the condition of your birth, it doesn't determine the outcome of your life. You work hard, you play by the rules, you can get ahead. You make a mistake in life, you can redeem yourself. There's a lot of people in this country that don't believe that anymore. And when you take a look at our government's approach to this, I would argue it's making it worse. We're paying people effectively not to get on with their life and get to work. If you stack up all the welfare programs, 92 of them, costing $800 billion a year, we're basically telling people if you take that step and go take a job, you're going to get worse off. The highest tax rate in America, it's not the people living on Red Mountain. You know? The highest tax rate in America is the single mom making $28,000 with 2 kids, who when she leaves welfare, who when she wants to go and get a job, she'll lose 80 cents on the dollar in benefits when she goes and takes that step to go work. If you're a single mom with 1 kid making minimum wage, you get a $3 an hour wage increase, you keep 10 cents out of the dollar because of all the benefit losses, the way the system works. We have a moral obligation to deal with this. And the good news in all of this is, as conservatives, as people who believe in liberty, in freedom, in self-determination, in upward mobility, in opportunity, all we have to do is take these wonderful, beautiful principles, reapply them to the problems of the day, and show the country that we have better solutions. Our challenge is to take this message to the country in 2016, is to have a clarifying election. To say, look, we've had 8 years of this mess, 8 years of our foreign policy which is in tatters, of our country being less respected, of China running the roost in Asia, of Putin taking over countries, of ISIS on the rise, of Iran laughing all the way to the bomb, of people stuck in poverty for a generation. We can do better than this. You know why we can do better than this? Because we're America. We can do better than this because we've done better than this before. I really feel good about 2016. I tell you, just as an aside, my experience in 2012 was a great experience. People here in Colorado were fantastic. Actually, my brother's brother-in-law, Justin Oliver, and his dad, Fred, are here, who live here in town. And Justin brought his friend, who I was riding the lift with at Snowmass a couple spring breaks ago, and had my goggles and my helmet on, and he recognized my voice. He said, "You sound like Paul Ryan." I am. So it's amazing the notoriety that came in. In fact, I was at the airport six months ago, and this lady came up to me and she said, "Oh, wow, can I take my picture of you?" You know, it kind of felt like a zoo animal or something. She's taking pictures. I said, No, come take a picture with me. Let's do it together. So we got somebody to take a picture of the two of us. She said, "Oh, it's so great to finally meet you at last, Governor Walker. You know, I really enjoyed meeting that." This gets better. About 3 months ago, I get on the airplane. This is in Milwaukee, an area I represent, by the way. I get on the airplane, and these flight attendants are looking at me and whispering and pointing and looking at me and whispering and pointing. They say, "You're famous, aren't you? Are you Anthony Weiner?" All true stories. It fleets pretty fast, I'll tell you this. The point I got on 2012 is this. The Electoral College really matters. The Electoral College really matters. You, Coloradans, you need to know that you're a special state. You know you're a special state. And I see my friends, the Baums and the Keefs and the Jensens from Wisconsin here, you know? Right, all right? You guys are still living back home, right? You're not going to move out here, right? Okay. Right? Okay. And it's a special state that my family's enjoyed my entire life. My mom skied out here in the 1950s with the University of Wisconsin. I've been skiing here. I learned as a snow puppy in the Highlands at 3. You know, I've been doing the backcountry all my life. Jake over there and I are going to go top a Smuggler tomorrow on our mountain bikes, and then we're taking my 10-year-old up to Ajax. I'll be back here at Lost Valley Ranch in the Front Range for 1 week, and then back here in the Western Slope doing the backcountry stuff, because this is what we do in our family. We love this place. So please know we know how special you are and what this is, but that's not what I'm talking about. You are so special because you very well might consider and decide who the next president's going to be. Look, the reason I was here all the time in 2012 is you are one of the key battleground states. And you're going to decide, you know, you and a handful of other states, are we going to get this country back on track? Are we going to have the election that clarifies who we are so we can fix this mess? Or are we going to go down the other way, drifting away? The problem with being another Europe is we don't have an America to back us up like Europe does. So I want to thank you for having this beautiful community. I want to thank you for coming out and helping your fellow Republicans. And I also want to thank you for the responsibility you have ahead of you. You're used to targeted races. I watched that Cory Gardner race. We're going to have another Senate race here. You're used to being targeted. Please know that those of us in other states appreciate what you go through, and that we're all counting on you to deliver the presidency for us so that we can save our country in 2016. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.